Alright, picture this. You spend weeks drawing a perfect Batman page. You bleed for it. Then some computer bot zips along in and poof, it's redrawn overnight by AI. That scary future? DC slammed the door right on its digital face during this past weekend's New York City Comic-Con, which is 2025. But Marvel? They're actually teasing it with that strange Wonder Man image. We've got a simple truth here. One giant company is backing the actual artists, and the other is just choosing quick clicks and cheap tricks. DC's AI ban isn't some boring rule, it's the ultimate aggressive defense of human art. We're digging into the contracts and the PR mess to see why DC's wacky move is the only smart play left to save comics from the Wonder Man disaster. Alright, so let's get into the details of exactly what happened at New York City Comic-Con. Jim Lee got up during a presentation at the 2025 New York Comic-Con and he said, with regards to AI, DC will not support AI-generated storytelling or artwork. Not now, not ever, as long as Ann DePies, who is Senior VP and General Manager of DC Comics, and I, meaning Jim, are in charge. So that's a pretty definitive statement. That's a pretty, I would say, lockdown, no holds barred, end of story, period, don't even question me about it type of statement, which is good. You want clarity and you want a decisive moment. But if you peel back the layers of what he actually said and what it actually means, you understand the grayness of it, the vagueness of it. DC's ban is not solely about ethics. It's strategically crafted to defend against future multi-million-dollar copyright lawsuits, preempting and insulating the company from IP and creator debacles that could sour their relationships. What does that mean? If you take AI and say you want to draw an image of Batman or Superman, take your pick, and they train that AI on multiple artists to bring them all together, their different versions, from Dan Mora to Bill Sienkiewicz to anybody that you can imagine who's ever drawn Batman, and tells the AI, look at all of them, merge them and mold them together into one cohesive, comprehensive version of Batman. Well, now you get into this little bit of a sticky problem where the Batman that they're presenting really came from a portion of one or more artists. And now you get into this really weird situation about who should get royalties for that version. Is the artist's work being offered up voluntarily? Is it being offered up for pay? Or is it quote unquote being stolen? Now, sometimes the AI argument about AI steals from artists is a little bit, well, I won't say a little bit, it's a lot overblown. There are circumstances where absolutely, yes, it does apply. Not always. And we have to be careful and we have to be fair about when the theft argument is thrown around and when it's not. Now, if we look at the language of the policy, because Jim made the statement, but they actually published the policy. The policy's language specifically addresses IP training, which is taking the different versions and putting them together under AI's learning, and usage by vendors, which means can a vendor use an AI-generated image that was created from artists specifically without their knowledge or their consent or their payment? So the policy is meant to be put in place to protect DC from liability in the inevitable lawsuits that could come down the road. Now, it's still an important statement. It's not to say that that statement isn't good or valid or doesn't have anything to offer, but what it does do is it creates a sort of goodwill buffer with its creators, with its artists, and with its writers. The move solidifies DC's brand as the artist's choice over Marvel, because right now, Marvel is not saying anything, and we'll get to that in a minute. Unlike competitor statements, DC's policy covers submission, internal use, and vendor output, make it functionally leak-proof. They're saying we're not going to combine images, we're not going to teach AI on other people's work for any reason whatsoever. It's a pretty airtight approach to the use of AI, at least within that context. So if you want to sum up that position, are they really taking a moral and ethical stance? You could make that argument, and I think they're definitely trying to present it as such. What they're really trying to do is they're trying to save their bacon and stave off any accusations of theft or mismanagement or mistreatment of its creators. That's not to say that isn't a good thing as well, but they're not doing it simply because they feel the need to be a good company. They're also trying to save their bacon. Now that sounds all well and good for DC, but here's where it gets a little bit concerning, and we're talking specifically about Marvel. Because the Marvel part of this story is a quiet disaster waiting to explode. But before we get into that, right now I want to ask you a question. AI in comics, and I'm just going to ask this broadly because I want to get your full explanation and your full answer. Is AI in comics a game changer for the medium? Is it meant to be the future? Is it going to make things better? Or is it nothing more than a cheap cash grab that just makes the rich people rich and the poor people poor, and it ultimately winds up being a job killer? Let me know your comments below because I want to hear your input on this topic. It's a complicated one to be sure. During the Comic-Con, Marvel released the Wonder Man trailer, which is going to be a streaming series on Disney+. The reason that trailer is connected to this AI controversy, if you want to call it, is that fans noticed that within the course of the trailer, you see some promotional posters and lunchboxes, things related to the original Wonder Man that looked, let's say, a little touched up. Possibly with AI, possibly completely made with AI, or something in between. When asked directly about it, Marvel's representative said yes, these were posters that were made specifically for the show, specifically for the trailer, but that there was some AI employed to, shall we say, quote unquote, touch them up. Now, right off the bat, this tells you that Marvel is not a not now, not ever kind of company when it comes to the use of AI, which brings us back to the transparency piece. Marvel is not being fully transparent or doesn't have a formal hard line in the sand regarding AI's usage, much like DC is doing now through Jim Lee. They use the word assisting rather than banning, which creates a sort of trust vagueness between Marvel's leadership and the potential creators that could work for them. Now, this is for Disney Plus, it's for a show, so it's more like a studio problem, not really necessarily a comic book problem. But if one could trickle down to the other, then we have that ambiguity that really is going to throw everybody off. For a creator community already burned by years of tracing controversies and copying controversies and plagiarism and art controversies, the Wonder Man situation feels like just another in a list of betrayals by Marvel's executive branch, specifically targeting the highly engaged artist community. So that leaves creators with a little bit of a problem here. They have to start asking themselves, I want to go work for Marvel because Marvel is the market leader when it comes to comic books, but how much generative AI training is Marvel going to use with my work? How much are the vendors using now without telling the creators who originally created the work? This is the massive blind spot in Marvel that DC is now taking a step toward eliminating. Now, some may argue, well, if you're using Photoshop, if you're using digital tools to create art, either from Marvel, DC, or just for your own indie comic, isn't that kind of the same thing? Haven't people already been using some sort of digital enhancement for years? The answer is yes, but it's not that they're using it or not using it. The answer is how much, and where is the line where Marvel is going to say, okay, stop, we're not going to do it anymore. DC takes the hard stance, Marvel just lets that slippery slope just keep on sliding. So let's talk about Marvel and why Marvel has essentially said nothing and allowed this situation to pass. DC's AI ban will force a long overdue form of standardization. It may not be adopted by everybody in the same way, but it's a big step forward, making their creator-friendly contracts the new competitive baseline for retaining top talent. A creator now who wants to be an up-and-comer, who wants to kind of break into the big two, will look at Marvel and they'll look at DC and they'll look at the both of them and say, well, Marvel right now is not saying anything about AI. They could take my work, reuse it, train a new AI model on it, and I don't get compensated for it. They don't have to let me know, and that's just the way it is. But if you look at the DC side of the house, DC is at least drawing a line in the sand and saying, you come work for us, you be a creator for us, you be an artist for us, and regardless of the details of how you get paid and how many pages and page rates and all that, at least when it comes to AI, we're going to protect the work that you do. Okay, so that's a big bonus for creators looking to choose between the big two. If we look at the overall evidence of what's out there as far as respect to the attitudes about AI, from news reports, from Hollywood, from comics, from television, script writers, general book writers, and everything else, everyone is saying the same thing effectively. They want ethical clarity. They want to know if I work with a publisher, or if I work with a studio, or if I work with some top-level creator that's backing my project with funding, I want to have very upfront and clear understanding of how my work will eventually be used with AI, if at all. And in some cases, people may want to say, if you use AI, that is an automatic disqualifier and I don't want to work with you. Okay, and that's fair enough. But what we see is people want that clarity because right now it's super vague. Most people are not saying a word about whether they use it or not, or if they are using it, they're not very clear about how they're using it, and it becomes a bit of a quagmire for people who are looking to break into certain entertainment streams. Here, DC is delivering a product in the terms of an ethical policy, if you will, that the market is demanding. They want clarity. They want people to be very upfront and very transparent about their usage of AI, and DC is making that statement. So in that sense, they are leading the pack. Marvel, on the other hand, cannot retain star talent. If you look at the past year, I would say 18 months, a lot of people have left Marvel and they've come to work for DC. Now, to be honest with you, some of the people who have left Marvel and come over to work with DC are not that great. So you do get a sense that DC is getting leftovers from Marvel. That's a different conversation and a different video topic for another day. But at the very least, if people are looking for assurances that the art that they create is going to be used ethically, as long as if you term AI usage as a non-ethical usage, and that's also a separate topic that we need to dig into, DC right now is the better choice. And Marvel is now put up against the wall because they're not providing that transparency that artists and creators are looking for. By not having a transparent policy, they risk their portfolios being cloned by AI models trained on their own work, leading to a long-term quality drop. And so that puts Marvel in a difficult spot. Because they meaning Marvel, doesn't have a policy that's as stringent as DC's, effectively, they confirm DC's strategy victory in the AI art war, as far as who's going to get the talent, who's going to be protective of the talent, and where do they go from here. So is this the end of the story? Has everything related to AI, DC, and Marvel been settled? No, honestly, this is just the beginning of the story. And of course, as things develop, we're going to give you an update and let you know what's going on. But for now, DC didn't just write a rule, they drew a fortress around human creativity. They said, we are prioritizing the protection of our human creators. They saved their future, potentially, and their artists' jobs, at least from AI, as far as we know. Marvel's weird silence about the topic, especially about the Wonder Man controversy, just proves that being wishy-washy is the fastest way to lose respect and credibility and trust, at least with the creators. The ball right now is totally in Marvel's court. Do they really think they can afford to lose their best comic artists over some bad computer art? Well, I sincerely doubt it, but we shall see. So, again, let me know in the comments below, what do you think is the future of AI with comics? Is it inevitable? Is it a choice? Is something else going to come out of it? I want to hear your thoughts down below. So, I hope you found this video helpful, and if you want to help me in return, please hit that subscribe button down below, hit that bell for notification, and support the channel, especially with the YouTube algorithms, because that thing can be really probably driven by AI, which makes it a little bit harder to grow. Now, go read comics, but read wisely. I'll see you next time for more comical opinions.